Wow. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Balanced Me Show. And today we are on the relationship insights and knowledge sharing with the Queen. And I have an amazing Queen in the house with us today. I have Fejiro Adaka. Thank you so much for coming on this show where we talk about love, life, and everything in between. We talk about family, we talk about individuals, we talk about the intending couple, the married couples, the children, parents. We just talk about everything that has to do with the family system. And I'm so glad to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for coming. I was looking at your short profile and I was like, that's the queen. That's the queen. And before we go on today, I'm going to just quickly read her bio and then we'll go right into what we have to talk about today. So I have Fejira Daka, who is fondly called Mrs. Sparkles. She is a lighthouse, and every encounter with her leaves you enlightened with wisdom and practical insights that fosters your journey into becoming a happier version of yourself. She is a certified relationship coach and marriage therapist who is committed to helping singles and young couples to start their relationship with a strong foundation so that they can date intelligently and sustain their marriage spark. Spark. Okay. She is the founder of Ask Mrs. Sparkles Academy, a chartered accountant with 12 years of experience in the field, a life coach and mentor to many young ladies, and a devoted carrier of God's love. She is committed to living a purpose centered life of impact and influence. She is happily married to a husband of 9 years, who she calls Sparkles. And together they are blessed with two amazing boys. Whoa, whoa, Mrs. Sparkles, Fejira Daka. So glad to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for choosing to, come share with us your wealth of knowledge and blessing us, with the things that you've been endowed with. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. Okay, so without wasting so much time, today we are looking at mindful intimacy,
Mm.
building a stronger connection with your spouse. And a few days ago was Valentine, and
Yeah.
we had all manner of things around that. Should we celebrate? Shouldn't we celebrate? How should we celebrate? And all of that. And here we are. And I think celebrating love should be on a day-to-day basis. It's something that shouldn't be limited to a particular event or a particular season. It's something that
Mhm.
should come up, on a day-to-day basis. And here we are today, ready to look at mindful intimacy. So, what
Mhm.
does that mean when you say mindful intimacy? What does that mean to you? Help us shed light on that.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Law. Thank you for the great job that you are doing. I had to go through your page and I'm like, you're just so committed and devoted to the work that you do for people, for marriages, for relationships. And it's so beautiful to see. I'm glad, super excited, super pumped up to be here. And, I cannot just wait to roll into the next couple of minutes and see what we have. Welcome, everyone. Those of you taking out time from your lunch break to join us, you are welcome. We're doing lunch together, we're chatting together. So, yeah, I'm here. Thank you for the warm introduction. I think that I agree with you when you say love should be every day. Like it should be shown every day. And for me, when I say mindfulness, I mean a state of being conscious. I mean being aware, being deliberate, being present, in the now, in yourself and in your relationship. Because the truth is, if you're not even aware or what's that, familiar with yourself, you would even struggle to carry out any relationship or to progress in any relationship. So when I say mindful intimacy, I'm talking about being present in the now, assessing the state of your marriage, engaging with understanding. This is who my spouse is, this is who my wife is, this is who my husband is, what they need at this moment, what we need at this moment, what we can do to connect better, things we can engage in to move this relationship to the next level, things I can do to put a smile on their face. When I hear people say, "Oh, I don't do Valentine," I'm surprised, because I think that as much as possible, we should seize the opportunity to celebrate love. Life is busy in itself. I mean, we are either going to work, coming back from work, engaged in maybe church activities, engaged with family, children, education, even at an older age, busy with trying to look for money, because romance without finance too has its own comma. So we're busy on different levels. So when there is an opportunity to celebrate what you cherish with the other person, I think we should go for it. In fact, for me, that's another state of being mindful, right? So when I say mindful intimacy, that's what I have in mind. Being proactive. Okay, what am I doing? Some people go through their week without having any plan to do anything for their spouse. It's like autopilot. Oh, today we wake up, we greet, we go, you do, just there's no guide, there's no direction. Say, okay, by so and so day, we're having a date night, or so and so day, I'm going to reduce work time. Especially those that work from home. You could be so swamped sometimes and just buried into work. So saying, okay, last 3 days I was so busy with work. Today I'm going to take time off. When my spouse is home, I'm going to be focused on them. I'm going to keep my phone away. All of that little simple acts is being mindful about connecting with your spouse. It goes even to sometimes, watching stuff on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and then you laugh. Instead of just laughing alone, you can push it down to your spouse. You can push it on to your husband, to your wife. And even if it's just 1 minute of connecting, it goes a long way. It all adds up, to make the relationship spicy, to make the marriage beautiful. When you come back home, you have stuff to talk about. There's just different levels of it. So when I say mindful, that's what I really have in mind. And the truth is, one of the places where I think that people or couples miss it is thinking that how they felt, at the beginning of the relationship would always be how they would feel in marriage. So, at the beginning of the relationship, that excitement, that spark, you literally talk, all night long. I remember then in the days of university when they had free midnight calls, you would do 3 hours, and before you know it is 5 a.m. And you're like, from 12 to 5, what are you guys talking about? Because the thing is just burning on the inside of you, like you cannot wait to be with them. And then you get married and you're like, okay, I'm now too busy. There are no intentional steps anymore. You're not trying to, you just feel like, oh, I have them. And then so let's move on to other things. So I think that that's one place where people kind of also miss it in marriage. So for me, mindfulness is key. Being present, being focused, being intentional, thinking in advance, being proactive, right? Is very, very, very helpful. Okay, so I tell people, don't just focus on how your feelings lead you, right? Be intentional. So we get to the point where we now begin to move from emotional love into intentional love. When you tell yourself you have to sit down maybe during the day to send your spouse a message, maybe a message to show gratitude, maybe a message to just give them some energy or just encourage them on the presentation they have today, or a meeting or a project or a job you're going to close. Those little things can add up, right, to create that intimacy, to build it, to nurture it. You don't just plant something and leave it, obviously, right? So you have to be conscious about building a connection that will last long. So every day it's going deeper and deeper and deeper, right? But what you see happen to people where the first year they're good, the first 2 years they're good, the first 3 years, then few years after, maybe in the fifth year, sixth year, it now begins to look like see finish has come into the picture. And there are a couple of attitudes that can be like a barrier to building that connection. There are a couple of things that can stand in your way when you intend to or when you want to. That's why it's important to be mindful, because it's not enough to say, yeah, I love you, I'm married, so it's going to work. So I want to say, first of all, I'll say things like criticizing your spouse. So you have issues. Instead of separating the issue from your spouse, you mix everything up together and you begin to accuse your spouse. So you criticize your personality, you make them feel bad for opening up to you, for being vulnerable with you, and you cannot just personalize your feelings. So you said things like, you're always doing this
I
thing.
feel like I have emotions.
You did it
Sorry?
last
No, no, no. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
So you did this last year, you're doing it again. You always do this, you always do that. That's criticizing. Instead of saying, I feel this way when this happens, or I feel that way when this happens. When you keep doing things like that, you are going to be preventing your spouse from coming close to you. You are going to be building a wall of defense. And instead of moving closer together, guess what? You're going to be drifting apart. And before you know it, you start saying, I don't know what's happening in my marriage. She's just changing. He's just changing. He wasn't doing like this before. You deceived me when we're dating. He wasn't always like this. So, you start bringing up those excuses here and there. Whereas there are things that are happening beneath that you may not see. Another one is keeping scores. And many people are guilty of this. And pride does not even allow you to move past this. So your spouse does something to you, you want to pay them back. You want to make the match equal, or unwillingness to forgive. You say, I'm always the one apologizing. I'm always the one forgiving you every time. You're always offending me. See, your spouse is the person that may offend you the most in life. And is the same person that you should forgive the most in life, because you're living under the same roof, in the same bed, under each other's nose, right? Have you not experienced where sometimes you're like, how did I end up, how did I end up in this marriage with you? Like, how did I choose you? Like, how did we get here? What kind of wahala is this one? Because sometimes the conflict can be so intense, right? But it's not enough grounds for you to keep holding on those things to your heart. So there's somebody said, marriage, a healthy marriage involves two forgivers. So there's no point keeping scores. You have to forgive time and time and time again. Is there a place for setting boundary? Yes. I mean, to prevent yourself, yes. But you cannot say, oh, it has to be 50-50. I forgave you yesterday, you have to forgive today. I apologized yesterday, you have to apologize today. No, it doesn't work that way. Another barrier to intimacy can be lack of understanding, no knowledge of yourself, no knowledge of your spouse. You don't know what triggers you. You don't know what triggers your spouse. You're just going anyhow, jiki jaka, chiki jaka. You're not conscious of what's going on in your own life. You're not conscious of your moods. You're not conscious of your emotions. And you know that even though your emotions may be valid, it's not always right, right?
Yeah.
It's not always right. So you cannot make decisions by how you feel all the time. I always tell people, I say you have to learn to have meetings with yourself and begin to ask yourself, okay, what happened? Why is this happening in my marriage? What's going on? How did I contribute? What can I do to make amends? You see, all of these are important for you to move past the seasons of conflict in your relationship. Some other barriers to intimacy is no shared meanings, no shared activities. You don't have a vision that both of you are working towards. You don't have a shared goal that both of you hold dear. They'll say that this is where we are headed for. In the next 2 years, this is what we want. In the next 5 years, in the next 1 year, this year 2023, this is what we're working on. This is what we want to do better. I'm holding you no accountability, right? I'm holding you accountable in this area. You are holding me accountable in this area. No shared activities. A lot of people say, me and my spouse are so different. Guess what? Me and my husband, we are so different. We are very, very different. But you see, your difference has to be worked on in a way that you are able to identify areas that you can both engage in and indulge in. So you will not say, oh, I'm not a movie person, I'm not a sports person, I'm a book person. My spouse is not a book person. So I'm just going, no, the more you engage in activities that are important to your spouse, the closer you become. Look at what happened in Nigeria when they are playing football. You would go to a strange bar and just sit down. Guess what? All of you become best friends over that football. Why? Because there's something that both of you are focused on. It's something both of you are. Leave everything else doesn't matter. We don't look at tribe there. We don't look at his Yoruba. I'm Igbo. She's single. She's married. He's an MD or she's a waiter. Nobody sees all of that. So long as you are at that place to watch that football match, all of you are going to have beautiful conversations about that football. That's how we should work in marriage. Put aside all your differences and begin to engage in things that would help you foster your connection. So if your spouse likes to work out, for example, find time to join them. If it's to take a walk, find time to take a walk. If your spouse likes to swim, find time to engage. It may not be every day, you see, but once in a while you go. I think that the fact that your spouse knows that she doesn't like swimming or she doesn't like working out on the treadmill, but you make that intentional step to leave your comfort zone and come there and you get it like, what I did, my baby is going to be here too now. It goes a long way to make them know that they mean something to you. That connection is important at that moment. So if you don't have shared activities, you need to find things that both of you do together. It could be watching movies. Like one of the ways I personally unwind is watching movies. Even though my husband watch movies, I think I like to watch movies more than he does. So there are days where even though he had a really busy day and he's not been able to spend so much time with me, guess what? He comes back and he just wants to sit with me. Throw his leg on my body, I throw my leg, and we're just bonding. Phones are away, and we're just gisting. And before you know it, we're talking about the movie, we're gisting, we're laughing, we stay up late, we go to bed together, and it's just we've connected. And in that space, we could even pause to say, what happened during the day? Or maybe when you're even watching, you remember one conversation that you started a while back, you pause, how far with this one? You're just connecting. You see, you're just, creating memories. And tomorrow you can always reverse. There are names that me and my husband have because of movies that we've watched, right? So besides Sparkles, there are other names that I could just call him. And a memory flashes because we know when that name came from. There are places that we go to, and I just say one word, and both of us are laughing out of our bones. They're looking at like, what's wrong with this too? Because we just remembered something that we had or we had done together. And guess what? Even in public, we've already connected, right? We don't have to talk too much. So in and out, day in, day out, you have to find reasons to connect. Okay,
Okay.
your phones.
I want to say something.
Okay, all right.
Have you tied this up?
No, 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 it's fine. You can go ahead.
Okay, okay. You said something very, very instructive. You were talking about not keeping scores
Hmm.
and unforgiveness. I found out that, that happens a lot in relationships,
Yeah.
especially because you see yourself often, you relate often. So the
Mm-hmm.
tendency for there to be offense is higher. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I don't, if I'm not living with you and we see once in a while, the tendency for offense is very, very minimal. But if it's someone I see constantly, I have conversations with, I have we communicate, we talk, the tendency for the person to offend me is higher. So it
Yeah.
is, excuse me, so it is very, very important that we, you know, have what we call advanced forgiveness. So even before the person
Mm.
offends you, you've made up your mind that no matter what this person, you know, does, I'm going to forgive. I'm
Yes.
going to forgive because I've come to realize that it's not that this person is bad. It's not
Mm.
that this person, wants to hurt me. This
Mm-hmm.
person is behaving this way because that is what he or she knows
Yeah.
at this point in time. So giving excuses
Mm-hmm.
for one another, for each other, because you know that this person is not intentionally out to
Mm-hmm.
hurt you. It's not
Yeah.
intentionally out, to make you feel unattended to. So
Yeah.
yes, when you said that, I noted it, and I said I
Yeah.
was going to say one or two things to that. So
Yeah.
please carry on.
That's so profound. I mean, when you said this is what your spouse knows at this time, I had to write it down because the truth is we are all at different levels at different times in our life, right? What I know now, I did not know 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. We are daily growing in our, and that's why you cannot ignore wisdom. That's why what you're doing is very good because people just believe that, oh, we are married, let's just go on, go to work. But day in, day out, you have to look for ways that you can also improve your knowledge bank and work on your weaknesses so that you are better. So that point is so valid. Engaging your spouse from a place of understanding and making excuses for them. So spot on, so spot on. I also want to say this, flowing from that point, to say it's important that couples understand what strong connection means to them because understanding what strong connection or stronger connection looks like for you will prevent you from defining connection based on what you see on social media. It will prevent you from defining intimacy based on what you see on Facebook, based on what you see your friends doing, because we are all at different level. So even if at 7 years ago, Mrs. Law, when I was seeing her online, she and her husband were looking so cozy, they were doing stuff. Maybe at that point, that was my healing moment. And at that point, we were not really able to engage in walks in the estate, swimming pool together, movies together, because we are trying to overcome a season in our marriage. So you see, you must understand what connection means for you at the different stages of your marriage, such that you are not judging your own progress, your own connection, your own bliss, based on Mrs. Law, who was already over 20 years of marriage, right? It happens in seasons. When they say live and cleave, it's not overnight, it's in stages. Some people, they have a beautiful first year. Some people have a beautiful first 2 years, and then they kind of pick up from the third year. Some people have the beautiful first year, second year, and they begin to encounter challenges from the third year. Some other people have it on the other way around, whereby the first year was tough, the second one was tough. But from the third year, they've come to understand themselves better, they've come to move past their differences, and then they are making progress in their marriage. So you don't really look at another person to judge. So when we're talking about, I've been trying to talk about mindfulness. Now, when we're talking about intimacy, popular definition says what? Intimacy, right? Seeing into your spouse and vice versa. But for me, I like to make it more practical. To say, when I hear intimacy, I hear friendship. And friendship nowadays, I think that people have actually abused it, the way people have abused love. So you just see somebody that you work together because you talk every day, say, this is my friend. No, or you mentor somebody that is your mentee, you say this is my friend, or you attend church with somebody and because you see every Sunday you say this is my friend. No, how you define friendship determines the expectation that you have of them. So you want to be careful that the friendship is friendship, like the real definition, where there is love, not based on feeling alone, but action, where there's commitments, where there's sacrifice. You can see that the other person is willing to bend for you, right? Where there's truthfulness, where there's trust, where there's vulnerability, you're not ashamed to say it how it is, right? Where you have shared values and shared meanings. I've talked about that a bit. Where there's accountability, where you know that this person has your back and you have their back, right? So when we're talking about intimacy, these are all of the things that I have in mind. And like I said earlier, before you can conveniently establish intimacy with your spouse, with your husband, with your wife, you must first know who you are. Who are you? You go. Who are you? You must first know who is your spouse. What are their strengths? I mean, if you know that this person is weak in a certain area, what good does it do for you if you constantly nag about it? Especially when you've had conversations in the past and you have agreed on steps, actionable steps that you would take to get better. So, for example, let's say my spouse is the one that spends anyhow. He just goes out and is just shopping. He's not checking the budget, all of that. When it comes to engaging in financial conversations, and I want to say, you spent so and so money, I have to be mindful. I have to be careful, engaging in that conversation so that I don't bruise their ego. If not, tomorrow when you want to talk about the same matter, guess what? A wall is already built. They'll tell you, oh, I'm busy. I'll come talk about this later. And then they begin to push things, they begin to avoid the conversation. And once you have so much unresolved issues, guess what? It's going to affect your intimacy. Once your conflicts that you've not resolved, you've not talked about, there's some people that they can move on well when they've swept a lot under the carpet. But there's some other people that they cannot even understand how they want to have a conversation with you when you've not talked about that thing that happened yesterday. Do you see? So you want to be
Yes.
careful that you are not by yourself erecting, walls that prevent
Yes.
you and your spouse from connecting deeper. So you want to know what triggers your spouse. You also want to know what lights them up. You see, so for example, things like knowing the love language of your spouse, that's important, right? Things like investing in their love bank, that's important. It's also important for you to also express yours because guess what? People change. People change. The love language that I held and carried on my head when I got married is really not my number one now because circumstances and life has happened, right? So my, dominance, the love language has changed. That is not like number two. And what number two has become number one because I'm in a different season of my life. So I tell people, be consciously and constantly enrolled into the school of your spouse. Very, very important. So that you can understand where there are changes. You see, you can understand where you're in the season where in this moment, I just want to be playing and laughing. I don't want too much stress. Then this season of my life, I'm working on certain projects. I may be more devoted. I may be more committed. Please understand with me in this season. Or I'm trying to, be more committed with my prayer life, or I'm trying to fast more. So I say certain things I don't want to engage in. I don't want to attend too many parties, because I'm conscious of my environment. You have to. And if you're here and then you're wondering, okay, am I really intimate with my spouse? What is thing she's saying? Are we, you can know. You can know by checking your own marriage, by auditing your own relationship. And I'll just give a few signals that can help you to know that you may not be really that intimate because sometimes one person is so committed and so given into the relationship, but the other person is not,
Okay.
right? So if you're feeling lonely, if you're
Sorry,
feeling like this,
just before you go into the list of the things you need to watch out for,
okay,
you were talking about understanding, and
yeah,
then you went further to talk about the love language.
yeah,
the love language, you also need, like you mentioned, that you need to know you. You need to
Yeah.
also know your personality.
Yeah.
What's my personality?
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the things that helped myself and my husband some few years ago.
Yeah.
Over the years, we've been wondering, how is Ayo like this? And in my head, why is Femi like this? There was a lot of that in our head. But when we
Mm.
settled to now study, we've heard about personality, for so
Yeah.
long. But now, in the context of now we are married, now this is
Yeah.
my husband, now this is my wife, it
Mm-hmm.
helped us to be able to say, you know what, okay, so this is where the conflicts are coming from. And
Mm.
now, when those things, there are some instances that even those things are not necessarily even weaknesses, they are even strength.
Yeah.
This person's strength, this
Yeah.
person's strength, or it's just, you're just like, what is happening here? So
Mm.
with that understanding, one is
Mm.
now able to say, you know what's okay, I can leverage on my strength,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
leverage on his strength, while
Yeah.
we both work on our weaknesses,
Yeah.
while
Absolutely.
we both say, you know what, these are the areas where we need to put in more effort, as
Mm-hmm.
against we seeing it as something negative in our
Yeah.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very important we know our personality. We
Yeah.
get um, we get to know ourselves first, and then we get to know our spouses. There's
Yeah.
the 7 habits of highly effective
Make
people.
you
One of the
feel.
habits is that seek to understand and
Mm.
then to be understood.
Yeah.
If I, let's say for instance, you are my spouse and I seek to understand you, you seek
Mm-hmm.
to understand me. The truth is, this issue of you don't understand me will not show up,
Mm-mm.
because intentionally I've sought to understand you
Yeah.
and you sought to understand me. So that
Absolutely.
issue of, oh, you don't understand me, you don't get me,
Mhm.
will be
Mhm.
off the table, because
Yeah.
we're intentional. When you talked about being mindful, you
Yeah.
mentioned intentionality, you
Yeah.
mentioned being present. Those
Yeah.
are the things that we really, really, really need
Mm.
to look at. And even our money personality as well. You mentioned it along the line. You
Mhm.
need to be aware, what's the personality, money personality of my
Yeah.
spouse, so that you can be able to say, you know what, these are the things I want to give my husband to work on, because I know
Mhm.
he will excel there. I will
Yeah.
not give my wife this to do, because I know we'll
Yeah.
come back to square zero if there's anything like that at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
understanding is very important, and it's part of the things I tell people, that in any relationship, love
Mm.
alone, I love you, I love you, I love you, is not enough. You need
You
to
know it.
understand.
Mm.
Very, very, very important. You need to add understanding and some other
Mhm.
things to whatever you're doing in your relationship. So yes,
Yeah.
please go.
Absolutely spot on. Really, I love that you mentioned that. I personally too had that struggle where I did not know myself. And I'm like, why did I carry this man? How did this man carry me? He too was say, Madam, I'm tired. I'm tired, But when we sought and realized, this is my personality. This is your personality. It was like a light bulb moment. And for me, I feel like the transformation in my marriage started from that point.
Yeah.
It started from that point when I found myself. So it's very, very, very important. Ladies, gentlemen, if you are yet to, that should be your, in fact, that's where you should start from, right? That's where you should start from. To be honest, it is something that many people don't know. And the more I engage with people, because I've had couples come to me for couples counseling, and I give them their forms to fill, and I ask them, what do you want? Guess what? Both of them want the same thing in their marriage. They want the same thing. But you see, getting there, joining there is where the problem is. And the clash is obviously because of the different approach, different mindsets, and all these things. So it is very important. I was trying to share, and I will go ahead to say, what are the signs? What will you see that will make you feel like there are intimacy issues already springing up in your marriage? Because you don't leave it for it to get bad. Some people they see problem and they do nothing. They do nothing month one. They do nothing month five. They do nothing year one. And by year three, when the thing has reached here, they say they want out. When you begin to ask them, what have you done? I've talked about it. You talking about it is not yielding any effort. Then you take another approach. Do you see? So some of the signs that you could see to make you know that there are intimacy issue. One, when there is lack of unity in your home, where there's no partnership, there's no teamwork. You do your day, I do my day. You do your thing, I do my thing. This your work in this house. This your work. Even if the spouse is dying and cannot do it, it's your work. There's no let me step in for you. It's initiative. You're just leaving them to go on and on. Another thing could be where all your conversations are about the bills you're going to pay or your children. Because this is one place where parents, when children set in, some people there, the story just changes. Okay, did you pay this bill? How was the maker school? Antoniette, how far? And you're just having conversation about the children alone, about the bills you're going to pay, about responsibilities and nothing more. Guess what? You're already drifting apart. Why? There are no shared activities, right? You're not interested in what is going on in the person's life. See, another one is prolonged resolution of conflicts. When you can stay for days, you say we are fighting. Eh? You must be able to carry on your marriage even where there are unresolved conflicts. Because guess what? Conflict is not always resolved immediately. Sometimes both of you could agree to say, let's talk about it later. Sometimes you try to talk about it next month. Okay, let's talk about it next week. Okay, let's talk about it on Friday. Today is Monday. You see, based on reasons best known to both of you, are you saying that you're not going to have a marriage when you resolve it? No. So when you can keep malice, let me use that word. So you can conveniently keep malice because your spouse forgot this, or your wife did not do this, or she did this, and you're boning. You wake up in the morning, no greeting. You wake up, you bathe, you go out. You come in the evening, your food is here. Some people will not even collect food. They will not eat. Day one, day two. You are living in the same house, sleeping on the same bed. So you can conveniently stay for days. That's a sign that there's intimacy issues going on in your marriage. And you need to give it attention. This is where taking initiative comes. This is where what Mrs. Law talked about to say forgiving in advance. Forgiving in advance means that the person doesn't deserve it. You've not even seen the reason why you should forgive them. But because you understand that forgiveness is for you, because you understand that peace should reign, you go ahead and take initiative to forgive, then to initiate conversation, then to make the first move. Do you see? When sex becomes like a chore, let me just do it to satisfy. It's been 2 weeks. So yeah, let me just mark calendar. You're not excited towards happening it. You're just like, oh, let me just satisfy them and go. But they'll say, I pushed him out or I pushed her out. When sex become like a chore, it could be a sign. You see, when your spouse is not your number one priority, so many people say, my children is my number one. These children are going to, in the next 20 years, they're out of the house. So they're going to university. And you know how it's can. When at our teenage stage now, you're all about your friends, hang out, your birthdays. Mommy, how are you? You're gone. At that place, the only person you'll be left with is your spouse. So it is important
Yeah.
to nurture what you have from this moment up until that time. When you see people
Yeah.
married for 25 years, 40 years, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. So if you are admiring such and you want yours to be like that, now is the time. When I say now, I mean today. Today is the time. Don't say tomorrow I will start. Don't say next tomorrow. Like she said, every day is a day of love. Every day you must commit. Every day you must get involved. So if you are wondering, oh, okay, I've heard you. How do I now go ahead? What do I do? How do I practice mindful intimacy? Where do I start from? Because it feels like we are actually roommates, right? It feels like
Let's
I
start
don't even
off.
know. Yeah.
Let me just say something before you move on to that,
Okay.
Heather. You
Yeah.
mentioned the fact that very soon the children will leave the house. And the
Yeah.
truth is, myself and my husband, we're already
You're there.
technically in that space. Yes,
Uh-huh.
because we have a 21-year-old, we have a 19
Yeah.
year old who
Mm.
is they are practically out of the house. And the
Wow.
last holiday they came for during Christmas,
Mm.
we were just seeing them once in a yellow moon. Before we know it, oh mom, we're going to see a friend. Mom, we're going to
Uh-huh.
watch a movie. Oh mom, we have a concert somewhere. And that's
Wow.
just it. They are
Mm.
no longer as with us
Yeah.
as they used to. Yes, we still
Mm-hmm.
have an 11-year-old, but the truth is there are times she's also busy, maybe doing her homework, and it's just myself and my husband
Yeah.
practically together. And
Mm.
we need to always remind ourselves that, these children are out of the house. They
Absolutely
are out
true.
of the house. And if we can't be each other's friends, it's going to be
Yeah.
tough in the next few months. It's going to
Yeah.
be tough in the next few years.
Yeah.
It's very important that, continuously have that strong connection with our spouses.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
Yeah.
Always see ourselves, uh, with through that eyes of I love you, I see you, I
Mhm.
appreciate you, and I'm
Yeah.
not holding anything against you. No
Yeah.
matter what you've done, because we've
Mm-hmm.
chosen to walk this path together, and
Yeah.
we are going to walk it together as a team.
Mm-hmm.
There's this saying that a team, if you're a team indeed, you cannot say he lost, I won. You both won together, or
Yeah.
you both
Or you
lost
lost
together. That's
together.
that's so
That's
so
true.
you can't say, "Oh, I won in this relationship. I won." There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing like that. If there's
Mm-hmm.
a challenge, you both missed it, and if we both are doing extremely well, then
Yeah.
kudos to the two of you. So these are the things we
Absolutely.
need to remind ourselves, as we go on in our relationship.
Relationship.
Yeah. So please go
Spot
ahead
on.
so
Spot
that
on,
we
man.
can tie everything up nicely.
I'm sure when people see you and your husband and they're like, "Oh, you guys, how are you doing it?" Nobody comes and says, "Oh, I'm the one keeping the relationship." Oh, he's the one keeping the relationship. Nobody does that. But you take the glory together. You take the glory together and return it to God. So yes, I absolutely agree with that. Spot on. When the first time I spoke with you, when you told me you were married for, was it 17 years or 18 years there? I'm like, yeah, how you doing it? Like, it's just good. It's just good. It's just good when we see marriages that have lasted for decades. And if you're a young person here, newlywed or newly married, I need you to know that, see, all of these things, a lot of times people hear these things every day. But you see, it is in the doing. It is in the
Yeah.
doing, going back home and telling yourself, I'm going to make up my mind to start doing these things. We can talk from now till tomorrow. If you don't make up your mind in your heart to begin to implement all of these things that we are saying, then it's as good as waste of time being here, because knowledge enough is not knowledge is not enough. Application, right? Implementation is key. So I will wrap up with this to say, what are simple steps that you could just take, right, to engage in mindful intimacy, to build your connection further? The first thing I would say is embrace and establish rituals. Embrace and
Fantastic.
establish rituals that serves your personal bliss, that serves your peace, that makes you happier, that gives you fun. And note that I said happier, because if you're not happy by yourself, nobody can make you happy, right? So embrace rituals. What do I mean by rituals? Routines, things that both of you have agreed that you are going to be doing to connect more, to make your marriage better. I go as far as telling people, schedule it in your calendar.
Yeah.
Yes. Schedule it in your calendar. So this week, what are you doing for your marriage? Every day, what are you doing for your spouse? Today, I can decide that, oh, it's a message that I'm sending. Tomorrow, I decide that I'm giving my spouse an unusual 5 minutes, 2 minute hug. For as much as he wants to stay, he will stay there. We're not doing anything, we're just hugging. Another time I can say, okay, I want to express gratitude for one thing that he did last week. You see, you must be intentional about establishing rituals. For some people, they've agreed that twice a week they will have date nights. Some people like it indoors. Some people say they must go out. Some people have a balance, one in, one out. Some people have days for movie nights. Some people, every Friday is movie nights. The kids go to bed early and they sit down and they decide to watch a movie. Some people, Sunday night is moment of just sitting in the sitting room, listening to a preacher, because there are different levels of intimacy. So some people can say that let us bond spiritually. So spiritual intimacy, let's listen, let's feed from the same source. Some other people can decide that, oh, our health once a week, twice a week, or every Saturday morning, because we are home and we're not going to work. Once we wake up, we'll take a walk around the estate, or we go to the gym together every Saturday. You see, you must have things that you are doing. I don't know if you've heard about this 222 rule. Somebody must have initiated, I stumbled upon it a while back, where the person said, have date nights at least once every 2 weeks. Do a weekend getaway at least once every 2 months. Do a long weekend vacation at least once every 2 years. Guess what? That is somebody's initiative. You can adopt it, you can create yours. We have things like Royalty Day, where once a month we choose we allow one spouse to be pampered, to be cared for. You can decide to have weekly marriage meetings. Do you see? These are rituals and routines that you have adopted as what will work for you. You can do gratitude journal. This one really helped myself and my husband a lot, whereby every week we kind of write what the other person did that made us happy. So I would write what my husband did that really made me excited during the week, and he will write. And guess what? What we realize is that sometimes we have done stuff for each other that we did not even verbalize. To say this thing you did, it's new. But in that gratitude journal process, you're like, yeah, this what's it, so it got to you, okay, and then you note it to rinse and repeat, right? So there are different things that you can do, but you have to establish rituals and don't skip. Don't skip. Don't say, I beg, if we don't do for 2 months, will we die? See, all these things add up. Drops of water makes an ocean, right? So you want to embrace and establish routine. Another thing you want to do is you want to set boundaries for gadgets. If both of you are so into your phone, 11 p.m. phone, Instagram, you're always there receiving calls, working. You want to set boundaries. If it helps, if you're in that place where you guys are struggling with that, you can set boundaries to help yourself. I've talked about intentionally filling the love bank of your spouse. You can also decide to consciously express gratitude. She talked about, she was talking about see finish, right? Being too comfortable with your spouse. You must learn to express gratitude for the little things. Learn to use those magic words. Thank you. Thank you. Even for things that is their responsibility. Thank you. They serve you food. They cook dinner for you and they serve you. Thank you, babe. They give you money to shop for the house. Thank you. They pay for the children's school fees. God bless you. Show appreciation, show gratitude. Let your spouse know that you are seeing them. And in those areas where they make efforts to do that thing that you've been complaining about, ah, let them know that
Recognize.
they can see that this one you did today, I saw it. Thank you. Well done. Right? Expect, don't keep it in your mind and say, so today, or this our quarrel, we did not fight like this. Say it. But you know that I just realized that we resolved conflict without raising our voice. Thumbs up, babe, we did it. Talk about it. Right? Let your spouse know that they're not witches or wizards. That there are good things. Yeah, some people, the only time they express is when they want to criticize, when they want to complain. And all the things the person has been doing since, no records. Okay, so I'll stop here, and I think that this steps would help us to move further from where we are today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mrs. Sparkles, for all the tips you have taken time out to share with us today. And I would
Yeah.
just like to encourage each and every one of us. Marriage is beautiful, marriage is work. Nothing happens except we make it happen. It's
Mm,
like any and every other area of our lives.
mm,
We've got legs, and if we choose not to exercise the legs, if we choose
mm,
not to move the legs will just be there. We've got
mm,
hands. If we choose not to use the hands, it will just be there. It will be
mm,
as if there are no bones in there. The same thing with marriage. We need to, you know, put in all we can to ensure that our marriages thrive. We have to make ourselves available. We have to make ourselves available physically, mentally, intellectually, emotionally. We have to be present. We have to be present. We have to be mindful in our relationships so that the best can be gotten out of it at the end of the day. No marriage happens by magic.
By mistake
It
or
takes
mistake.
two individuals, yes, who are willing, you know, to learn, who are willing to unlearn, who are willing to relearn, who are teachable. Because when you are in a relationship with someone and you both are teachable, you're willing to take on new knowledge. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, so we can do it better this way. Wow. You find out that that relationship continues to thrive. So being teachable too is something we need to, take to heart and begin to apply in our various relationships. Thank you so much, Queen. Because everyone that comes on the show, whether a queen, whether a king, we acknowledge that. So thank you, Queen Fejiro, for sharing with us. I can see your tiara. For sharing you know, the things we need to put to heart to ensure our connection with our spouses becomes stronger. I'm so glad you're able to make it. And to all our viewers and those that joined in and those that will watch even after now, we'd like to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, would like to say bye and cheers.